What's up out there? We are back with some more Path of Exile. Now, in the last week, I've been working a lot more on my Atlas tree. I'm still stuck with these last two unique maps that I just cannot get to pop. I don't remember where I was the last week, but this is what I have left, is just those two. So I'm still struggling to get these to pop up. I ran a lot of, say, Moon Temple or Lookout. I thought you could get these to pop one tier higher, but apparently you can't. They're just, the unique maps just drop randomly. So I've spent a lot of time doing that, and then I spent a lot of time just working through the other parts of the map. I went through Delve. See, we can go over Delve real quick here. I actually found some really cool stuff in Delve, and I've spec'd into it. I spec'd out of, I can't remember what I was in at the time, but I spec'd out of it, and I've actually ran Delve pretty far. I know I'm not very deep compared to probably where some of the other people are, but I'm down to level 136, and I found some really cool stuff. Like there's some breach stuff down here. I did a breach thing earlier somewhere up in this area, and there was some kind of abyss thing. I tried this fight here for this abyssal city, the Lich's Tomb. That thing sucked. I got killed in there, but I found some other ones. Like there's, I don't see one on here, but there's some spots that'll say it offers like fire items. This one has fossils. I'll probably map down to that at some point. But there's some that have like chaos, lightning I've seen, fire I've seen. I saw some for minions. So if I go into my stash and look at my crafting tab, I found a bunch of stuff in here for that the Summon Raging Spirits build that I have. I found a bunch of stuff for that. So I've got like minion deal 29% damage on this. I've got minions deal 28% plus some other stuff on here. So I found a bunch of minion related gear, and I just haven't, here's plus 4% quality of socketed intelligence gems. So I found some cool stuff in here, and a lot of this came from Delve. So here's one plus 2 level of socketed minion gems. So this is, whenever I get around to going back into that character, I have a bunch of stuff to play around with and try to work in. I've got this whole section of gear set up for that purpose. So that's kind of where I've gotten to it. And I did go through on the gear that's on that character. I went ahead and qualityed everything up. So I was trying to just make little improvements over there. And like I said, I got all these minion items over here that I can work to make that character a little better. But I kind of got what I wanted to out of that, because I spent a whole week building that character up, and then I get dumped out, and now I have to start over and work from like the very beginning, you know, level 1 map or tier 1 maps and stuff like that. I can get into tier 2, tier 3, you know, I just wasn't interested in working on the character. I wanted to get back to the mapping progress and try to complete all this. So whatever I had left in the last video, I've gotten done, and I just now have these last two. So basically, all I've spent all week doing is trying to get these. And I went off on a couple of little sidetracks here and there and spun off on some tangents and did random things. Like I started finding out that you can get particular divination cards from particular maps. And I started going through the divination cards that I have, and I noticed that I had some kind of cool stuff in here. Like I have one for the Tabula Rasa. I ran a few of that, of whatever map that drops on, a couple of different maps it drops on. I can't remember. I was looking at some of this. Yeah, I've got 5 of 9 for this. So I thought, yeah, it'd be kind of cool to get that. And I noticed some of these other ones, like these exceptional gems and stuff like that. I was like, these look pretty cool. And I started looking at where I would get some of these, and you know, you got to kind of work at all the different maps. So I focused on like the Tabula Rasa one. There was a 6th link. I can't remember which one it is. The Chains of Pine. That's the one it was. So I did this, and I got it to actually complete, which is what gave me this. So I've got a majestic plate that's all 6 linked together. That is done. And I think I had this in the last video, but I have an immortal flesh. So I've got that thing. Somewhere along the line, I found this helmet, which gives 9% increased life regen. Now, I don't know if that's better than 128 or 121.8 life per second. I haven't worked this helmet up yet, or to see what I could do with it. But this has a lot more armor on it anyway, so I don't know. I haven't bothered messing with that too much. Then I found this one here. Socketed skills apply fire, cold, and lightning exposure on hit. This seems kind of cool too. Regen 19.7. This is far less regen. And I did get one of these Dodra's Damning Pow Ring, whatever you want to say this. So this one's got, I think this is one that Pox actually calls out and says this is a good ring for adding damage. The problem is I lose my lightning resist, and my lightning resist goes to shit, and I lose chaos resist. Actually, somewhere along the line, I used to be at 0%. I don't know what I've done, but I changed something and I don't have 0% anymore. So I'm having some growing pains, I guess. But I think in the last video I had applied my implicits on that. Those have not changed. I haven't really done a lot with this build so far. It's kind of stayed the same, which is where I'm running into problems. But I've made some changes. So I got that Ties That Bind, which dumped me out this thing, and I'm going to look at a crafting guide for this and see what I need to do, which we'll get into what I've done to work on that crafting thing. But I started doing some other stuff, and as I was pushing through the various maps here, like I started doing some of the unique ones, and then I would start running some of the ones that Kirok offers, and these would be like Shaper, with Shaper influence, Elder influence, stuff like that. These are right here. Now these are tier 16. These maps get hard, and not just with the like if you get the wrong modifiers, it really tanks your righteous fire. Like can't regen or something like that. Those suck, but these really get tough. And like I started getting gear from these, and it's just not the right gear. So I've got some Shaper stuff or Elder, whatever these are in here. I've got some stuff. It's just not the right thing. Do I have any Shaper? I could spell. Yeah, I do have some Shaper. So I've gotten a little bit of everything, but it's just not great for what I'm doing. Now, like this one, Socket of Gems are supported by level 20 slower projectiles. That'd be great if I had a bow build, I'm assuming, but I don't. So some of the stuff I'm getting is good for every other build that I could get. Like I could do probably a pretty decent bow build with some of the stuff I've got, but it doesn't help either of the characters that I have. So I don't know. I've kind of been working at this, trying to go through the higher tier stuff and fighting the bosses on those. What I'm kind of driving at is there was maps I just couldn't even finish. So early on, like when I hit the red maps, that was a huge check. You know, gear check or whatever. I started running into issues and noticing problems, and I'm like, okay, so I have to go back to the gear guide, which I need to go back to the gear guide. I understand that. I'm going to go read more of the Pox thing, and I've been gathering some stuff for doing crafting and things like that. So we're good there. But I think I just ran into another wall trying to go through, I guess, what you're going to call the bossing section, which is what I presume this is. And there's all the different main bosses at the end of the maps, but then there's like the Maven fight where she's got all the bosses out and stuff like that. Those are getting very difficult. And I started looking at somebody else's PoE, is it poe.ninja? I think it was their 100, right? Their level 100 righteous fire character. And I was looking at what they did, and I'm like, there's a lot of difference there. Now, obviously some of these are playing trade. I'm in Trade League, but I'm not trading. But they're obviously in Trade League and trading, so they're going through and purchasing whatever they need and getting how they need to go. I'm not. I'm trying to work this myself, so it's making it a little more difficult, but I'm trying to prepare for solo self-found whenever I get to that next league. Anyway, long story short, I started running into more problems where, like, all the tier... I'm pretty comfortable in tier 16 unless I'm running, like, the Shaper and that kind of stuff. Those, all the influenced ones, those are getting tough. I can't beat the Searing Exarch. I ran into issues there. But like I was running into that stuff so infrequently because I was working all the other map stuff, it never became a problem. Now that I'm actually pushing into the harder content and trying to get some of this gear and trying to find some of that, it's starting to become a problem. And I'm starting to notice it a lot more because I'm going in here and I'm running this stuff that Kirok has. And if I run this, chances are I may or may not be able to finish this map. I might get some gear out of it, but chances are I'm going to get my ass kicked in here, and this can be miserable. So I started looking at ways to improve my character and things that I could do. One of the things that I know that I could do is upgrade the quality on all of my gems. So I did that. I had a whole bunch of these gem cutter things, gem cutters prisms. I had enough to actually go through all my gear and trade each one of these gems off. Because if you're unfamiliar with it, if you trade one of these here with a level 20 gem, you get a level 1 gem that has plus 20% quality. So I traded everything off. The only one I couldn't do was Val Righteous Fire, and I think this one has 17%. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to mess with that one. It's so close. I don't know that I want to deal with it. But all these other ones are there. So whatever benefits you get, and these are not level 20 yet. They're 19, 18, somewhere in there. I spent a lot of time redoing these, and they went up fairly quickly. Like within an hour, I had like, say, 12 or 13 levels on almost all of them. But those have all been leveled up. And then I started looking at the Righteous Fire on one of the websites, maybe Maxroll or something like that. There's actually a section that talks about flasks, and I redid some of my flasks. So like this Quicksilver one is the one I used to have. This one I've had, so it just kicks on when charges reach full. But I added this Ruby Flask, or adjusted this Ruby Flask to use when adjacent flask is used, because I think I still had this one before, but I just changed it to when it triggers. I can't remember what it was triggered on, but I changed it to this. And then this one here triggers also when all charges are full. This is new. This is the Amethyst Flask. So this one gives me chaos resistance, and there's a 20% chance to gain a charge when you deal a critical strike, and 33% additional elemental resistance during effect. So when this hits full, it kicks that off. So I've noticed a lot better light. I'm able to live a little bit more. I did this earlier today, and I did this one here. I changed this to a Divine Flask, and it's plus 20% quality, and I changed the modifiers on this, but it has 50% increased recovery rate, and then recovers an additional 28% of flask life amount over 10 seconds while not on full life. The one I need to change is this Granite Flask. I've only ever found this one, which is unique. I'm sure I've ran across other Granite Flasks. I just don't have one in my little flask storage. I quit grabbing every flask that came up, and I'd probably go buy one somewhere, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I did this, and then I had to go somewhere and came back and played some more. But what I do notice is because these things trigger, they're actually doing really well. And I went down to one health flask. I had two, but I've gone down to one. And because these things trigger, I put this one in the middle. So used when adjacent flask is used. That way, if either one of these triggers, I'm assuming it'll pick up, because both of these are when charge reaches full. So that'll pop all three of those off, which automates that process, which is great. I don't have to worry about it. But like I said, I've been looking at some other build, at least one other build and some other stuff. And I know I need to get this stuff upgraded. But getting it to that point is going to be difficult, or it's going to take a lot of learning of the crafting system, which I'm just not quite there yet. I haven't even started on this plate, but that's a good base. It's a 6-socket, which is exactly what I need. It should be able to go up fairly well, and I need to go look for more essence and stuff like that. Like I've got a little bit of essence, but not a whole lot. So in the sense of wanting to collect stuff for upgrades, I started looking in the course of, let me go back up for just a second. In the course of working on all this mapping, like I said, I was trying to look at divination cards and where I could get them, where they dropped. I found out they dropped at certain maps. One other thing that I was doing was, I'm watching a lot of different creators' videos, and I can't remember who said it, but I watched somebody's video. They were talking about, I don't remember what it was. I just remember they were talking about heist. And they said heist is a good source of blank. So that got me to thinking, well, if one mechanic in the game is good for a particular thing, what about the other mechanics? What makes those mechanics unique, and what can I get there? I know there's sections you can do for essence. That's a no-brainer. But I'd spec'd a lot into ritual, or I'd spec'd into ritual, and maybe not a ton of it, but I'd spec'd into it. So I started looking at that, and that kind of brings me around to my Atlas tree. I have completely revamped this, and I've been thinking about this for a couple of days. So I sat down today and looked at it, what I really wanted to accomplish. I had some stuff into Searing Exarch, which, okay, fine, I could go do that. It is what it is. But right now, I'm trying to focus on gearing up to do those kinds of fights. I don't care about the boss fights right now. So I had some Maven stuff up in here, and I had a lot of the Shaping the Skies. I ditched these the other day because I figured, well, I don't really need any of this stuff for mapping. And then I did that mapping video I put out yesterday or whatever, and I kind of got to thinking about that, and some comments on there was talking about, I don't really need the scouting reports at this point so much because I'm down to just the 2 maps, and they're going to drop when they drop. So maybe I'll work towards those a little bit more, getting the scouting stuff back. But long story short, I took a lot of the stuff that was either bossing related, like Maven, Searing X Arc, or mapping related and all that stuff. I left where I was. In fact, I left this one here, the 60% increased Atlas scouting reports. I want to keep that because if I get those, I can try to reset the thing. Now, these other ones give you specific kinds, like this one is comprehensive or whatever, but I wanted to free up as many points as I could. So I left all my delve points in, which is all this stuff here. And I looked at where I was in relation to, say, things like betrayal, because betrayal's supposed to be good for scarabs, and delirium's supposed to be good. Or was it delirium? I think betrayal was good for scarabs. Why did I want delirium? I don't remember. There was a specific reason I wanted delirium, and it's just totally not thinking of what it was at the moment. But I was looking at where I could get crafting supplies. Like, I know I could go down and get essence stuff down here, sure. But I was looking more towards betrayal, delve, and delirium. So I spec'd out of the ritual stuff that I had, because I had some ritual like up here, and I think a little bit over here, maybe some in there. But I spec'd out of that stuff, and I kind of broke this up a little bit. I left the nodes that increased the quantity of items. I figured that would be good. And I made sure that on this side, 2% increased effective modifiers on your non-unique maps. I thought that'd be all right. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I went that route instead of this route here of taking the 2% chance for additional maps to drop. And this, I think this was just the same cost as going this way, but I kind of liked this direction up here. So I took that. And like I said, I went into Betrayal and Delirium and working on Delve. So that's kind of where I've adjusted all my stuff over to now. And that's kind of where we're at. Oh, I did level up. I did get a level. So I am level 93. So I was able to go up a little bit there. And my Righteous Fire is at 144,988, which is not great, but that's where I'm at right now. Which I think I was at like 140. So I've bumped that up a little bit. And just to close out this whole thought, mapping is not bad. Like if I play right now, I don't really run into issues until I'm at tier 16. Obviously, if I can't regen health or mana, that's a problem. So that's an issue there. If I get any of those little bastards with the red rings around them that just suck my life down, those suck. But for the most part, I'm not really running into a whole lot of difficulty in the mapping portion of this. Where I'm having a lot of issues is in the bossing portion. So I'm comfortable doing all this, and I really want to just try to get rid of these last two nodes. I'd like to get those done. That's the biggest thing I want to get done. Oh, I will point out, I almost forgot, I did get the Maven thing up to whatever this is. I did Pit of the Chimera, apparently. So I did one of those fights. That actually, I took almost all my portals to do, but I got through it. I did that one early this morning. So I kind of went into that. But like some of these aren't bad. If I run into some of the higher tier maps, I'm running into issues killing the boss. Like I can kill all the monsters on it usually fairly well, but it's the end stuff. So I know there's things that need to be done, and I know what I need to do is to work on my gear. I just need to sit down and take the time to do it. Unfortunately, I have work commitments all week long, and I'm not going to be able to play. So I'm not going to have much of anything done for next week, although it'll be probably a nice time to take a break. But I guess I'm going to close this one out. That is where we are right now. I know what I need to do, and I've tried to spec into stuff on the Atlas tree because I'm trying to get those last unique map drops. I'm going to just run random maps or something, just kind of tinker around with it, run some delve, see what kind of gear I can get there, try to get some of this Syndicate stuff. I've been running Syndicate hideouts. Those are pretty cool. You get some crafts in there. You get some items that drop out of it. And I still don't know what Delirium all does yet, because all I've done is basically run through the map. But I'm working on it. So we'll see where all that goes, but I'm hopeful when I get to play that I'm going to generate enough drops that I can get better gear and make some improvements, get some better currency, and just go. I've got a somewhat decent amount of currency, Like, it's not great. I got some chaos. I've got a few regal orbs, a couple of veiled chaos, stuff like that. I've got 3 divines, which isn't great. Like, that's not a whole lot. But in the grand scheme of things, it's more than 0. So I've got at least something to play with. Anyway, that will do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.